start this episode straight up. I'm going to be talking about masculinity and femininity, and I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert on this by any means. There's a lot about relationships I'm definitely an expert on. This is one where I'm still learning. Yet, there are some things that I have learned so far that I believe make a real difference in the quality of our relationships. These are shifts that I believe are necessary for this relationship revolution, for opening up power and possibility in our partnerships and our lives. And today, I want to talk about those two shifts that I've learned. For this month, I'm going to bring in guests who know more than me to talk about the rest. Welcome to another Catalyst conversation for a relationship revolution. Here we challenge the unquestioned assumptions about love, life, and leadership, disrupting the patterns that have been keeping you stuck and revealing the truths that no one has taught you. Here we activate new ways of leading relationships consciously, courageously, differently, and dare I say, better, so that we can all have the kind of relationships and life that frankly most people only dream of. I'm so glad that you're here with me. Are you ready? Let's get into it. So this month, first episode of August, right? And in the month of August this year, I want to do something that I think most relationship conversations don't do. And go beyond balance into the truth about masculine, feminine, desire, polarity, all that good, yummy stuff, right? And I'm not talking about masculine, feminine in the way that prescribes men to be one way and women to be another in order for a relationship to work. As a queer person, I don't buy into that stuff. And I don't really, as a person, I just don't buy into black and white have tos, okay, for the most parts. This is not also going to be a series that kind of provides a checklist for how you get to be more feminine to keep some masculine interested in you kind of a thing. No, you don't need that either, right? What I want to talk about in this series are things like polarity as an energetic truth, not a gender assignment. I want to talk about new ways of experiencing and embodying masculinity and femininity that open up more connection and more freedom, more joy, and yes, even more desire and attraction and passion in our relationships. And I'm excited to see what our guests show up with and have to share in their wisdom this month. But today I'm going solo. No guest, just you and me and the vision that I have for how masculinity and femininity can evolve in this relationship revolution. So before I get into the good stuff, let me take a moment to introduce myself for those of you who may be new to me and this work. My name is Dr. Jenny Walleg. I am an award-winning relationship mentor, speaker, author, intuitive guide, and I am a relationship revolutionary. My mission is to revolutionize how most people think about and go about their relationships and to redefine what it really means to love. And I want to do that so we can have more of what relationships have to offer, so we can unlock the true power and potential of relationships in our lives. I'll say it before, I'm going to say it again. Nothing, truly nothing, affects the quality of our lives more than the quality of our relationships. And we are in relationship all the time, in every corner of our lives, including relationship with ourselves. Relationships are the infrastructure of everything that we are trying to build. But most of us have never learned how to do them well, let alone how to lead them consciously and relationally, especially when they are challenging. Much of what we have learned not only doesn't work, it's actually part of what keeps us stuck and unhappy. So the revolution I'm talking about changes that. This revolution invites a great global healing through love. It is about a return from separation into wholeness and a paradigm shift in the way that humanity relates, loves, and leads, starting at our most intimate levels. These catalyst conversations are not here just to give you insight, my friends. They are to wake something up within you, to create shifts for you that allow you to experience and be a part of this revolution as well. So, here's what I want to offer you today. I want to offer a new vision for polarity. And when I'm talking about polarity, I'm talking about, like the yummy distinction that we have between masculine and feminine. I'm not trying to queer it up so much that we erase the polarity, because that energetic difference is actually really beneficial to our relationships. But there are a couple of beliefs around it that actually create harm, and I want to address those and offer some paradigm shifts to open up a new experience of polarity, of masculine and femininity, that I think is going to create tremendous healing for the world and open the door for even more joy and fulfillment in your relationship, and frankly, all areas of our lives. So 2 shifts I want to talk about today. 2 shifts that I think once you see them are going to make a lot of sense. And I hope you're not going to be able to unsee them. Okay. So here's the first shift. Sex, I'll say it this way, sex and even gender, because those are different things, sex and even gender, neither of these determine masculinity or femininity. Most of us have been taught that sex decides which energy we get. If you are male, you become a man and you are masculine, or supposed to be. If you are born female, you become a woman and you are feminine, or you're supposed to be, okay? Being a genderqueer person in the queer community and in long-term committed partnership with a trans man, and serving this community for decades of my life, I can tell you without a doubt, my friend, that our assigned sex at birth and even our gender identities do not determine whether we embody the masculine side of the spectrum or the feminine side of the spectrum. And so if you find that your authentic expression of self does not fit one side of the binary you're supposed to fit, and that something's wrong with you because of it, or wrong with your relationship, I want you to hear this. That is not true, right? So take me, for example. I am a feminine, how do I say it? Feminine presenting genderqueer woman. Isn't that fun? That's all kinds of messy, right? Because I am genderqueer. And that means for me that A, I don't have to box myself into anything, but B, that I can express the full range of myself, be it in feminine energy or masculine energy or some androgynous middle ground, and androgynous, right? So I still identify as a woman. I was assigned female at birth. I'm a genderqueer woman, if that makes sense. And maybe it doesn't, but it does to me. And sometimes I present more masculinely. Sometimes I exhibit or embody, is probably a better word, like masculine energy and masculine traits. Get me working on some plumbing or changing oil, and like, it's like I feel like a different energy moving through me. And that's something that I think is really important to acknowledge in who we be, right? And in what masculine and feminine actually is. They're energies, okay? It's an energy. It's not a trait. It's an energy. And we all have both energies, okay? Every single one of us, full stop. It just expresses differently. And some of us express almost, excuse me, almost entirely, very strong masculine energy. Some of us, very strong feminine energy. But that does not mean that there's not masculine energy flowing through a very feminine person, or feminine energy flowing through a very masculine person. And again, it also doesn't mean that a very feminine person has to be a man or male or signed male at birth, or nor that a very masculine feminine person has to be female or woman or signed female at birth. Right? Like I've dated plenty of women who were women, no question. They knew themselves to be women, but were very masculine. And I know that there are men out there who are very much men who are a lot more feminine. It's all in all of us. There's nothing screwed up. There's nothing miswired. There's just energies that when we think about a return from separation into wholeness, like that wholeness is a recognition of all of who we are. And that brings me to the second shift I want to share. That the division between masculine and feminine is actually what creates harm, right? Not the energies themselves. It's the division between them. Like masculine is only this and feminine is only that. That if you're masculine, you can't be feminine. If you're feminine, you can't be masculine. That's the shit that causes harm within ourselves and within our relationships. And this is a consequence of patriarchy. And if you want to hear me go deeper into patriarchy stuff, go check out my I think it was January's Catalyst Conversations, where I was going deep into like what the relationship revolution is. But anyway, patriarchy didn't just, no, let me back up. I'll say this. Patriarchy created this division, okay? One of my favorite mentors, Terry Real, talks about the first, I think it's the first layer of patriarchy being the great halving, like HALVING, right? Where we're cutting this spectrum in half and saying there is this binary masculine and this binary side of feminine, and just those two black and white polars. Okay? That's a problem, because we then are cut off from the wholeness of ourselves and the wholeness of our humanity. And this harms men because they don't get to embody their feminine energy or express their feminine energy. It harms women because they don't get to express their masculine, or and I mean, I could go so deep into this in just the harm that it causes. But I want to say this first before I go any deeper, if I do go any deeper. And it's that patriarchy didn't just split this energetic brain fog. I just used the freaking word. Spectrum. Okay. Patriarchy didn't just split this energetic spectrum into polar opposites with no gray area, right? It also ranked them. Okay. It lifted masculine up and it pushed feminine down, right? It says that being strong and independent and non-emotional, logical, right? Those are all good qualities. But being dependent and emotional and vulnerable uh, and needy, like those are all bad qualities. Okay, it's like so fucked up, and it sucks so bad because I see it so often in our work with couples where like the men never learned how to be emotional, never learned how to be vulnerable, never was never allowed, because being anything girly, being expressing any kind of femininity, crying, right, like is bad, was weakness. And we women and girls get punished for it too, right? We can't be too powerful or too assertive, or we're bitches or whatever it is. And we have to figure out how to be the perfect femininity in order to keep the masculine man attracted to us. Are you seeing how this causes problems? I'm sure that you've probably experienced it in your own life. And what so many women come to me desiring in their relationship is a greater level of intimacy with their partners, who tend to be regardless. And let me, I'll say the feminine bodied people, and usually women. I don't often work with feminine energized men. It's either usually masculine energized men or feminine energized women and queer folks. Okay, anyway, I'm digressing. This is what happens when you get me talking by myself, right? I just go wherever I go. But what so many people like come to me with is the desire for greater intimacy with their masculine partner, masculine energy partner. And that masculine energy partner has not learned how to be whole, how to create space in their own internal energy body for the spectrum that patriarchy has labeled belonging to women, right? And so not only do we have this division, but we have the division assigned to this piece is for men and this piece is for women, and the masculine is better and the feminine is worse. Okay? It creates a great fracturing that lives inside ourselves, that lives inside our relationships. And my vision, friends, my vision for this revolution is a relational world in which masculine and feminine don't disappear, but the division between them does. That we move away from this fracturing and return to a wholeness where we can be on a spectrum. We can move up and down and around that spectrum, or a matrix of it, right? I want to see a world, I want to see relationships where being in your masculine does not negate being soft and relational. Being vulnerable can still be a masculine trait. You could still be vulnerable from a masculine energy. You could still need someone in your masculinity, right? And another kind of side of the coin where being in your feminine does not negate being powerful or independent or strong, and these can still be beautiful and yummy feminine qualities. It's an embodiment, it's an energy, right? And it's an integration of our whole being that creates so much more space for real connection and real intimacy and real authenticity of the diverseness of human beings, which gets to also change over time, right? Like it does. Right now, so much of what we assign, like that's for men, that's for boys, that's for women, that's for girls, it just keeps the fracturing happening, and it prevents us from accessing what's really possible between us. I see a world in which the polarity, the yummy, juicy polarity of the tension between masculine and feminine still gets to exist and be electric, but it exists without having to amputate ourselves from the rest of the spectrum of who we are. Let me share another example. As many of you may know, if you've been following me at all, my partner and soulmate, Calvin, is a trans man. And again, as I mentioned, I'm genderqueer. And so on paper, we break every rule, every old model that would have required, you know, uh, uh, that would have prescribed who we needed to be and what it would have taken to create real chemistry for us. Yet the reality is that we have a polarity that gets to be fluid, that and don't get me wrong, we're still have to actively bring consciousness to how the narratives about feminine and masculine and what a man's supposed to be like and what a woman's supposed to be like they're still there. We're still deconstructing them, right? Like I still have stories about Calvin as a man and what that means about how he should be, and me as a woman and what that means about how I should be with my man, queer as we may be. But I got to tell you, the work that we have done in liberating ourselves from all of those shoulds, in allowing ourselves to show up beautifully, authentically, is creating and has created so much spaciousness and so much more attraction and desire. Like that I get to express my my queerness, my masculine side, which once upon a time in my relationship with Cal, he did not allow. It was like very clear. I used to wear ties. I mean, I still wear ties on occasion, but I used to wear ties more often. And as I was packing for a trip to spend time with Cal, I mentioned that I couldn't decide which tie to wear. And he was like, no ties. You cannot wear ties around me, because that was too masculine. And it would, like, it threatened his masculinity, right? And his identity as a man with a woman, because that would be masculine energy with masculine energy, and that, like, it was intolerable. Now there's space for all of me, and Cal's opening up to space for all of him. In his transition, there was a lot of kind of anchoring into masculine energy for a while, and as he continues to evolve, as we do, and as I found a lot of people who are on gender journeys do, they go to one side of the spectrum. The pendulum swings to one side, and then as they start to adjust and settle into who they are, they take a few steps back on the spectrum to a lovely little authentic expression, right? They go from who they are supposed to be based on this division of masculine and feminine into who they really are. Oh my God. And when they can get there, and watching Cal get there is just so fucking awesome. But this is not just a journey for genderqueer and transgender folks, guys. We are all on gender journeys. We just don't name it. If you're a woman, you are on a journey of what that means to be a woman, and how that's expressed and how that shows up in relationship with your particular partner. If you are paired with a man, particularly a cisgender heterosexual man, know that he is on a gender journey where he's trying to figure out what it means for him to be a man. And my hope is that he comes away from the extremes, from the harm that patriarchy has done, from the toxic masculinity that has been so uplifted in our society, and starts to come back into his wholeness as you start to come back into yours, so we can choose which energy we desire to be in. As a woman in leadership, as a woman in business, I hear too a lot of stories about women who in their business struggle with like being in masculine energy in the business world, because that's what business and success and leadership has all been oriented historically around, like the masculine and men, cis het men, right? The stereotypical, this is what it means to be a men. And then they come home and they want to be in their feminine energy. They want to be in their creativity, their flow, their emotions, and sometimes they don't know how to let it go. And I talk to men who want to be feminist men and want to like really show up powerfully for women, and I fucking love that. But because we don't have a model for how to reclaim the wholeness of masculinity, the result is a switch for men to move into femininity, to be a feminist, to be connected more with women, to understand women's issues. It's almost like the only way the paradigm prescribes to be able to do that is to move away from masculinity and become more feminine, which often to women becomes less attractive. I don't know that I know the answer to how for all of this, my friends. But I will say that I believe it starts with the recognition that it's possible and the decision to do our own part, right? To lead our own relationships, our own, including our relationship with ourselves, in a more integrated and expansive and healed, whole way, to push back against patriarchy, separation, division, by recognizing that we are all both masculine and feminine. We get to choose our energies. And that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. Imagine, just imagine a world where nobody has to amputate themselves from the other side of the spectrum. That there's not such a thing as being feminine enough or masculine enough, or not being, not being enough of a man or not being enough of a woman because of who we are and how we express ourselves authentically in any given moment or any given chapter of our lives. Because again, it gets to change, right? It gets to ebb and flow and evolve and develop. I love this idea. Do you? I want to know. What do you think about this idea of like a new relational paradigm where we keep the polarity, but we reclaim the spectrum between it and we own the whole thing, the whole fullness within ourselves? That's what I got to say today. If this episode stirred something up in you, if you've got reactions, if it opened a door or created some permission for you to show up more freely in your life and your relationships, to love better, to understand your partner more, to revolutionize your own relational world, I want you to do something for me now, pretty please. Could you subscribe to the Relationship Revolutionary podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a review? Share something about this episode, because when you do that, it supports this episode in being shared with other people. And while you're at it, go ahead and find one other person who may benefit from listening to this episode today. Okay, your word of mouth, your engagement is what gets these conversations into rooms that I couldn't get them into without your help. Now, if you want to help us activate and yes, even accelerate this global movement of revolutionizing relationships, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us on YouTube, share about our work at Powerful Love, attend our events, and of course, do your part to keep leading with love. If you're looking for support for yourself, please reach out. There are numerous ways that Cal and I can support you. I want to talk about a couple of them today. if you know that you're ready to build more and better into your relationship, whether that's in the masculine feminine spectrum or some other healing, growth, expansion, improvement that you are desiring or have been working toward. So I'm going to start with a free masterclass that I'm doing pretty regularly, at least once, sometimes twice a month. And it's called How to Get Your Partner to Finally Show Up the Way You've Been Asking Without Burning Out Trying to Make It Happen. And I want to be really clear. This is not a webinar. This is an activation, an identity activation, okay? It is for the woman, the person who has been stuck spinning their wheels for too long and wants to know the exact shifts that she can make to get things to finally start moving. If you know that you want a deeper level of support, you want someone to walk with you along the journey so that you can be sure of your success in implementing change and revolutionizing your relationship and creating something better than you've probably ever even imagined it could be, then I want you to check out the third path. Okay. It starts as a 6-week program, though we could start also in a longer period of working together. We talk about that on what we call a decision call. But essentially, let me just say this. The third path is our core program for learning how to stay in your relationship and changing everything. Okay. If you want to explore more of what that can look like, if you want to learn how you might go deeper than just, the 6-week starting place, then book a decision call. It's 90 minutes with us. If it's you and your partner, with me, if it's just you, we're going to figure out exactly where you're stuck. And I'm going to tell some truth about what it's going to take to get unstuck, if I believe it's possible. And if we think that we can support you, we're going to talk about that too and help you make a powerful decision one way or another about the next most powerful step you can make to actually move the needle in your relationship toward more of what you want and deserve. Stay connected to me between these episodes, my friends. Find me on Facebook. Come say hello. Tell me what landed for you today. I love it when I get comments and feedback, so it doesn't feel like I'm just talking to the ether in these Catalyst conversations. And keep the conversation going, right? It does not have to end when I stop talking. It gets to continue in the comments, in your redecisions, and in the moments that you choose differently this week, this day. That's what I got for you all today. I hope that you will join me next week for another Catalyst conversation in the relationship revolution. We are going to continue digging in to masculinity, femininity, energies, desire, the whole thing with a guest expert next week. I don't actually know who that is yet, so I'm going to surprise myself as much as I surprise you. I've got some really amazing people that I'm talking to, so stay tuned. New episodes drop every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific. Until then, my friends, keep leading with